This is the basic computer keyboarding keys to success video. It's not really a video, it's a slideshow. But what I want to do is go over quite a few things that I talk about in class that students that are online don't necessarily hear, things that are really key to being successful in this course and get you set up right away to be successful. So let's get started. In order to be successful in this class, you can sit however you want. You can slouch in the chair, you can sit sideways. You can do it however you want. To be the most successful you can be, though, you want to follow some basic guidelines like good position and posture, use a copy stand, avoid looking at your monitor, force yourself to find the keys with your fingers and not your eyes, and then use regular practice sessions. And I'm going to go over a bunch of these in more detail for you. But really, in order for you to be successful, if you follow these guidelines, you're already 5 words per minute ahead of everybody else if you do these things. So very important to stick to this and to do it each time. Remember to follow these. Technique. You have to use a keyboard. You cannot use your phone. Your phone, yes, you can probably access the software, the GDP software, using your smartphone, but it's not a keyboard. The idea here is that you're learning to type by touch using all 10 of your fingers. We actually only use 9, but the idea is that you use your fingers, all of them, not just your thumbs or a pointer finger. So you want to make sure that you're using a computer keyboard. Correct position at the keyboard allows you to type with greater speed and accuracy. When typing for a long period, it helps to rest your eyes by looking away from the screen. And actually, you shouldn't really be looking at the screen very often in reality, so it's sort of a moot point. Change positions, walk around or stretch whenever you feel tired, and you're probably going to feel it in your arms and your shoulders and your neck the most. And so when you start to feel strained, go ahead and take a break, stretch. It's really not a good idea for you to spend 2 hours straight working on keyboarding. It's better if you spread it across the week. So make a point to do that. Work on it a few times a week instead of just one power session. And then make movements and adjustments that will help you. Making movements and adjustments will help you from being too tired. Really, anytime we sit in one position for a long period of time, it can be tiring. And you can be susceptible to carpal tunnel from bad positioning. So we'll talk about that too, the correct position. Okay, let's talk about good positioning. This image is from your book. You might recognize it. It's from the very first few pages that you read for week 1. And it really is a good display of good positioning. I'm going to go over a few things with you to help you sort of focus in on good position. So the first thing I want to point out is that this person's feet are flat on the floor, and you should rest comfortably with both feet flat on the floor. Your legs and ankles should not be crossed. Your feet should not be on the chair wheels if you have chair wheels on your chair, and you should just try to find a very comfortable position. The next thing you'll notice is that her knees are slightly bent. They're not bent severely. Her knees aren't up higher than her hips. So she's at a comfortable height in her chair, and you should adjust your chair so that you feel comfortable putting your feet on the floor. Raising and lowering your chair will also help you get good position on the keyboard. So you can see her arms are just slightly more open than a 90-degree angle, and you want your wrist to rest down in a downward angle like that, and that will prevent carpal tunnel syndrome. Now, it's not always possible to get that low of a position, so what I want you to do, if you are not able to get your keyboard, you don't have a keyboard tray like they're showing here, or at school where the tables are a little bit high, what I want you to do to prevent you from resting the heel of your palms on the table is slide your keyboard to the edge of the table, and doing that will force you to at least hold your hands up. When you put your hands in that upward angle like that, if you will, take your hand and rest the heel of your palm on the table, and then put your fingers up in the air. This is the position that I want you to avoid. And what this position does is it closes off the tunnel in your wrist where the nerves run. That's what causes carpal tunnel syndrome. So, in order to avoid that, you need your wrist to be in a prone position where your arm and your hand are in a straight line, whatever that looks like for you, and never where your wrists are bent. Either one way or the other is bad for them. So you want to avoid that. And then you'll notice her back is in the chair and it's resting on the chair back comfortably. She is in a slightly reclined position. That means she's leaning just a little bit away from the computer monitor. The computer monitor is within arm's length of her eyes. So sitting where she's sitting, she would be able to touch the monitor. And then she has her book on a copy stand. And your book in your box, your book came with a copy stand. Make use of it. This is really important, and I'll talk a little bit more about the use of a copy stand as we go on here. But it's really important that you use a stand, that your copy is not laying flat on the desktop next to the computer, but that it's standing up, and that will prevent strain in your neck and your back and your shoulders as you go forward. Now, placing your fingers on the keyboard on the home row, so that is on the left side A, S, D, and F, and on the right side semicolon L, K, and J. When you're doing that, close your eyes for just a second and feel on the F and the J key. There is a little raised bump. That raised bump, you probably have never felt it before, but now that you're looking for it, you should be able to feel it. That raised bump will help you find home row if for some reason your hands come off of the home row and you start typing crazy. Take a minute without looking and find the F and the J keys with those little bumps. That will help you get your fingers on the right keys. So that is just the basics of good positioning at the keyboard. Yes, you can sit and slouch and, whatever you want to do. I can't keep you from doing that. All I'll tell you is that students who practice good chair position, arm position, and keyboard monitor position and use a stand for their copy are more successful, and they have higher speeds than students who do it however they're comfortable. So that's my 2 cents, and we're going to move on to the next slide. Your workstation, this just reiterates a little bit more about the workstation. I want to talk about point number 2 though, use the stand. What happens when you use a stand, other than avoiding that neck and eye strain, is you are preparing yourself to take the final timings at the end of the semester. The final timings, the words are not going to be displayed on your monitor, and so you need to be used to looking at the copy off to the side. This throws students at the end of the semester. So we're going to practice good sound practice when we're doing this, and we're going to use the copy stand. All the copy that you're typing in all of your lessons is in your book. Use that book as your guide and not the monitor. And another way to keep yourself from using that as a crutch is to take the keyboard diagram that was in the 1B assignment sheet. You can feel free to print that out if you lost it or you don't have it. It's week 1B assignment sheet in D2L, and you can go ahead and print that out and fold the top of it over and hang it over your monitor, and that will cover the copy that you're typing from on your monitor and allow you to focus just on the copy on your copy stand, the actual physical book. I know that students really, really like to use the monitor. You can glance at the monitor to look and see if you've made any errors, but I don't want you typing from the text that's on the monitor. Okay. So that's why it's important to use the stand. Most people put the stand to the left of their keyboard. You certainly, if you're more comfortable with it on the right, you can do that if you like. But it needs to be on one side of your monitor or the other. Another good reason to put it on the left side is because your mouse is usually on the right unless you're left-handed, so they don't interfere with each other. Okay, and then tilt the monitor slightly away from you and a little farther than arm's length from you. And that's just so you get a good view and you're not getting eye strain or glare off of the screen. So, positioning at the keyboard, center the keyboard in front of you. And sit slightly reclined with your back touching the back of the chair. Keep your elbows close to your body in a relaxed position. If the chair you're sitting in happens to have armrests, get out of the habit of putting your elbows on the armrest. You really want to avoid that and hold your arms up with your muscles instead of resting them down. Not only that, but after you type for a while, your elbows will get sore, so you don't want to do that. Your fingers should naturally curve over the home row position, and the back of your hands should be at the same angle as the keyboard, which is that whole carpal tunnel thing that I spoke of earlier. And then move the mouse with your whole arm, not just your wrist. That will help avoid some wrist strain. Stroking the keys. Operate all keys by touch using the correct fingers. When you press a key, make it a good firm press and then release and then put your fingers back on the home row. Now we haven't moved off of the home row yet, so that's sort of a NA for this week, but starting next week you'll start keying other keys, and as soon as you strike a key, put your finger back on the home row. So there's a reach from the J finger to the U key. Once you've touched the U key, you want to go back to the J key. Not pressing it, but just positioning it over the J key. Keep your forearms at a slight downward slant, and again, if that's not possible, make sure that your wrist and your arm are in alignment so that you don't get carpal tunnel. Make quick light strokes, returning your fingers as I mentioned. Speed and accuracy. Now this is really important. Good habits are only part of the formula for success. The other part is practice. So good habits will set you up for success. Those are the things that I talked about: keyboard position, arm position, chair position, feet position, monitor position, striking the keyboard, those kinds of things. Those are all good habits. The practice part, though, is equally as important, and it's really important that you spread your practice out throughout the week. Don't just do a marathon session on Sunday or Monday right before your assignments are due. You want to spread that out from the time that you're assigned it. Do a couple, 2, 3, 20-minute sessions. That will help you build success over time. Each week you'll have a speed goal, and that goal is printed on in your book next to the timing that you take for the lesson, and it's also on your assignment sheet, so you know what you're expected to do before you even begin for the week. I think it's also at the beginning of your lesson, so you know where you're supposed to be at. The first lesson, you should be at 10 words per minute with fewer than 3 errors, for example, on a 1-minute timing. Now, each week you will have a speed goal, and you're expected to meet that goal, both the speed and the accuracy. So if you get a timing of 15 words per minute, but you have 9 errors, that's not good enough. You need to have 3 or fewer errors on your timing before you're allowed to move on. So if you get to the end, you take the timing, and you don't meet that goal, before you move on to the enrichment activities, I want you to go back to the beginning of the lesson and repeat the lesson. When you get to the timing, hopefully your speed and accuracy is where it is. If it's not, go back and repeat the lesson. You get the idea until you meet that speed goal. What happens is if you begin behind at this beginning point, as we move through the semester, you will find it harder and harder to catch up to the speed goal. So it's really important, especially in the beginning here, that you meet that speed goal each week and that you are repeating the lesson as often as is necessary. There is no penalty for repeating a lesson once or 8 times, 10 times, 12 times. That doesn't happen very often that students have to do it that many times, but there's no penalty to doing it. You get points for having completed the lesson and for reaching the speed goal each week. So if you reach the speed goal and the accuracy goal and you've completed all the lessons, it doesn't matter if you've done it 1 time or 20 times. There's no penalty. So, and then the other good point for practice, like I mentioned, is to practice regularly. It's just like learning an instrument. The skills and techniques are very similar to learning a musical instrument or anything that anything you want to be good at, really. If you want to be good at football, if you want to be good at modern warfare, if you want to be good at whatever, it just takes practice. You have to do it over and over and over again. So apply the same principle here and do regular practice. 3 times a week is much more effective way to practice than 1 time for 2 hours. So Developing these good habits and practicing like I've outlined for you will lead you to keyboarding success. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you have a great week this week.